India is about to boom.
I love playing football. Football में बड़ा passion है.
We want to build content which is going to assist our buyers.
This is the perhaps the most important session, and but at the same time, all of us have the collective responsibility of holding the attention of those who have been trying to hold the attention for past couple of hours. So, but nonetheless, they actually are waiting for all of us to answer the questions that perhaps they or their parents have in mind. So I'm going to very quickly jump into the discussion. There's a question. The format is simple. There's a question, and then Abhishek, Sudhanshu, and Nitin bhai, you could give your response, your perspective on the question. So a lot has been spoken in the last couple of hours. A lot of opportunities. When we're talking about participation of sport, India is about to boom. Only 0.1% of the Indian GDP currently is contributed by sport, and therefore the opportunity is large. And there is a lot of glamour around. But there could be some myths. So if I ask, maybe because of paucity of time, Nitin bhai to start with first, okay, uh, what do you think is the biggest myth young people have about careers in sport today? And then maybe followed by Sudhanshu and Abhishek.
I don't really know about the myth part, but there is a lot of interest in sports. But most of it is towards events, managing events, or celebrity management more than anything else. That is what I understand. So probably the glamour part is the myth, if I can call it that way. Yeah.
True, true. I think Nimish was also addressing that. Yeah. Yes, Sudhanshu.
So, so I think myth probably is that, in my view, because I, keep interacting with students across various campuses which are offering courses like what you offer. And many of them are actually looking at building careers where they get to interact with top-notch celebrity sports persons, etc., which therefore is, making it difficult for them to sustain a particular career or a job in sports industry. So I believe a lot of it, and I was catching the last part of the previous discussion where Jatin and everybody else was mentioning about a lot of hard work. So there is a lot of, logistics, supply chain, operations bit, which needs to be understood by students who are pursuing such courses, rather than just looking at, okay, I'll get to manage these athletes, or looking at only getting into the top scheme of Sports Authority of India, where you get to interact with a PV Sindhu or a Neeraj Chopra. So that's not going to happen.
True. Yes, yes, Abhishek.
Thank you, Abhijit, and thank you, everyone. Before I start, I just wanted to say a big thank you to Jitu and tell everyone in the panel here and even the viewers that I'm actually one of the many students and viewers here, and I'm just, privileged and honored to be part of a panel. Not too long ago, it was Jitu who started my sports marketing career less than 10, 15 years ago. So, what an honor. You know, and I can speak therefore less from experience, more from my own personal experience and how I've built a career in sports and sports marketing. I think the biggest myth, and a lot of people come to me and say, I love playing football. Football में बड़ा passion है, तो मुझे sports में join करना है. सर मैं क्रिकेट खेलता था गुजरात के लिए, या मैं क्रिकेट खेलता था अपने स्कूल के लिए, कॉलेज के लिए, तो मुझे sports management में आना है. I and this is not to deter, athletes who have obviously come and done so well in their lives at a playing level. But the response I give them is, if you love playing football, then become a footballer. Why are you getting into the sports business? If you love playing cricket, become a cricketer. I think that is a misconception that I often find difficult to break, because the reality is, and I think all panels have gone through this, and my job is to just reinforce, because it's fundamentally what I believe in as well, which is, at the end of the day, you need to identify what is your core competency. Look, the sports business is no different from any other business. At the end of the day, you might be an ace batsman or a batter, but you're not going to be joining a sports firm and batting for them. You're going to be building their business. So identifying what is your core competency becomes very, very key. I think that's the way that I look at myth busting in the sports business.
Absolutely. Very rightly said by all of you. that, whether it's the glamour side of it, or whether when Sudhanshu mentioned, wanting to spend time probably with Bumrah or somebody, or as you rightly pointed out, that you might have been a player. Of course, your understanding of the game and the environment probably is some kind of a advantage to you, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it can lead to a successful career in sports as a business. And that is something that is very crucial for all the aspirants to understand. But while we move, okay, from here now, if let's say we go beyond the myths, then in your view, what kind of real roles are emerging? So far we have known sports marketing or operations or events, but within them, if I can ask Nitin bhai to uh, talk about sports retail, because he is the second largest chain of sports retail after Decathlon in the country. Or Abhishek, of course, has moved and grown over the years, and Sudhanshu as well. So, in your organizations and beyond, what kind of real roles that you see emerging across sports operations and marketing?
Yeah. Firstly, I would totally agree with Abhishek what he mentioned, right? It is so apt that if you are a cricketer, might as well make cricket your career, not the business out of it, right? Yeah. So now we are at an inflection point where currently, say, we operate 19 stores. We are opening 6 more in the next year. What we see is currently my focus is on building teams of people who can take our business to the next level, right? That is where we are a predominantly brick and mortar. My DNA is brick and mortar. I've spent 45 years in retail, and that is very intuitive for me as an entrepreneur, right? And I have seen the entire journey of having started with almost nothing to building a now at least 300 crore business. So now going to the next level, what I am doing right now is getting new blood, young people into the organization. We need to go omni-channel, right? That is where we have identified some people who have huge experience of taking organizations from, say, X to maybe Y, which is 10x, 20x, even 50x. That is what we are looking for. So across multiple functions of the business, what we need is people who are tech savvy, people who understand the digital aspect of entire business, right from marketing to product development. To currently I'm in Jalandhar, where I have a couple of young guys with me. Now when they talk to our suppliers and brands, it's a different language, it's a different mindset. And what we are looking at is brand partnerships. We are looking at some exclusivity for distribution in the online space. So the trying to build an omni-channel retail experience for the end user. That is, and who is ready to take that role in our organization is more than welcome to become a part of the team. That is what I understand as of now.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Abhishek.
Yeah, I think for me, there are three pillars, and this might be more from my perspective of having worked in sports marketing, sports development, grassroots, and so on and so forth. I think data, operations, and content, these are three pillars and three segues that I think are growing very quickly. And I'll tell you why. It's all linked to a larger ecosystem. Today, with the advent of internet, AI, what is happening is sports data, even at an amateur level. And when I say data, it's a very broad term. So one is just being able to assimilate data, interpret data, whether it's even for something as simple as analytics, or even the operational element of it, which is powering scorecards, data, statistics of players across the entire spectrum, not just at the topmost level of the pyramid, which is, for example, the IPL, but even at a grassroots level. What is exploding today is, if I'm playing a football match in my building, after I finish my match, can I get the data for my match? Therefore, there are agencies now that are coming up specializing in that. So that's data. Operations, I think, was well covered in the previous seminars. With the explosion of sports leagues, both across amateur and professional, you need more people to run it. You need people on ground to be able to run what is actually a very, very complex operation of a live sports match at any level, whether, again, you're running an IPL game or whether you're running an intra-school tournament. To bring it up to a professional standard requires operations, and operations requires people. and content. And this is the one I'm most excited about because it's a space that I'm very close to. Content has exploded. Earlier, content meant जो आप सामने टीवी पे देख रहे हो, that was content. Then came the internet. Internet brought with it second screening. Second screening brought with it, there is an ecosystem of non-sports athletes and non-sports business professionals who are now making more money than both combined, and they are called sports creators, influencers, and there's a whole spectrum of this that has now come up. So therefore, A, being the influencer yourself, or B, becoming an agency, becoming an entity that is able to connect brands to creators. I think that is content is something that I see a lot of you young students over here should look at very seriously because yeah, it's a seriously growing
So
vertical.
if I may interrupt here, that is exactly what we are talking to each of the brands that we are meeting here in Jalandhar and Meerut. So we want to build content which is going to assist our buyers exactly what to buy, what is the kind of game that they play, is it beginners, intermediate, pro level, what is the right equipment, weight, profile, balance, everything, right? So through our website that we are going to launch very soon, we would be India's first uh, AI enabled experience based platform where anybody who wants to buy, we are building a sports vertical, right? So anything that you want to buy, we will be able to assist those people to choose the right thing for them. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of personalization also was talking in the earlier panels about personalization in coaching and yeah. So then, if you could.
So I think largely both skills part has been covered. I just feel, and I'm coming more from being part of the grassroots level system and having worked with also a lot with the governments on the sports development projects. What I feel is, I think the hard skills on the data, tech, etc., is obviously very important. But I think one of the important things which lack, in my view, in the young sports community of students which is coming out in the market is uh, fundamentally it's more an attitude issue rather than a skill issue, because skill,
Mm.
I'm sure institutes like are training them, but business development is something which I feel very few people are interested in taking up those roles. And generally all of them feel business development is only sales, which again is a misconception, because I think business development would include what Abhishek was mentioning in terms of content. It also would mean bringing back data from the market, identifying the right kind of segments for me, in terms of targeting things. So all of that is business development, and that understanding I think is largely missing. So generally, if I talk to a youngster coming out of college and if I offer them a business development role, they take a step back immediately because they feel that it's only going out in the field and targeting or going meeting a lot of academies or a lot of schools or whatever at the grassroots level, and that's something which they don't want to do. I think what I would recommend all the students or your students and whoever others who are in the audience is, it's the surest path, in my view, to grow up in an organization and go at the highest level. So please do not avoid, I think, business development. Try to see how you can maximize the your development in that area along with whatever the
Yeah.
institution is giving you. But there are a lot of other things, and I think developing that go-getter attitude is of prime importance, and that's something which I think as sports industry we are hugely lacking.
Yeah,
Hugely lacking.
I completely agree with you there, Sudhanshu. Have seen multiple batches over the years of uh, you know undergraduate and postgraduate students passing out in my journey of education. Sales has been one of the most resistant roles, and what is perhaps not understood is that some of some of the best companies in the world, 95% of the CEOs started their career in sales. Because if you really want to become a CEO or an owner of a business, then you need to understand the customer's mindset, and sales is the perhaps only way that you can understand customers mindset the closest possible. So absolutely
So
with
I
you
think
there.
it's a very old role. It can't be put in the emerging role category, but it's the most important, because I think
Yeah.
And perhaps AI
and
proof.
the breads for everyone else is earned through this particular role. That's the importance, and I would suggest that all the students here listening to us should actually really be aspiring to be in the business development role.
And
Coming
it is strategic as well, as very rightly you pointed out. Moving quickly from the nature of jobs and roles to we spoke, and very rightly Nimish, Abhishek in this panel spoke very clearly that boss, cricket rahe to cricketer hi raho. So passion alone, or I love or I follow particular sport, and I've been following football for a number of years, which is good. If you're a player, good. You're following, good. You have passion. But at the beginning, where in the earlier panels, it was said that large number of jobs are also freelancing and gig oriented in sport, and sports industry perhaps will continue to be that way. It is the inherent nature of the industry. Now, having said this, what would be your perspectives? And I know Nitin Bhai has to catch a flight from Jalandhar back. So Nitin Bhai, what would be your perspective on how do you manage the early years from a financial perspective? Salary versus expectation. कैसे manage करें sir? So Sudhanshu, if you can, by the time Nitin Bhai comes back, Sudhanshu, if you would like to.
Yeah.
I
am I
just thought
audible?
that, sorry, yeah, please, Nitin Bhai.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes.
Nitin Bhai, you're audible.
Yeah. If I have heard the question correctly, it is about salary versus expectation, right? That is what you said, right? So there are two things to it. One is in terms of salary, there are large corporates which really give a good amount of salary, depending upon the role that you will take up there, right? If you talk specifically about SMEs like us, where we of course do have a growing organization, we are very frugal, and we think a lot before we employ people and give them hefty salaries. But now that increasingly we are increasing our budgets to get the right kind of people for the right role, because retail predominantly has been employing semi-skilled, unskilled workers, right? But to manage a business of scale that we are operating at, we now need people where we will have to pay salaries at par with large corporates, and we have started doing that. So, but unfortunately, there is only one of in Total Sports is the only organized multi-brand, multi-sport retail chain. So there's too much of a scope around other kinds of businesses in the sport. And salaries, I would assume that they are really good now in today's times.
Sure. Sudhanshu?
Yeah.
I will have to move now from here. Abhijit, can I take your leave?
Yes, Nitin Bhai, to the audiences, as he said that he's speaking from Jalandhar and he has a flight back to catch. So unfortunately, we are running about 10 minutes late, but I'm sure these 10 minutes will cost him that the passenger
No,
is
so
not going
I
to.
won't be able to focus and answer. Even I am distracted right now. But anyways, thank you so much for inviting. It was great connecting. Anybody who wants to get in touch with me, please reach out to Abhijit, and then of course I will be able to answer every question that students may have. Thank you very
We'll
much.
email it to you as well. Yes, Nitin Bhai. Thank you, Nitin Bhai. Have a
Bye.
safe flight back.
Safe travels.
Yeah. Yes, Sudhanshu.
Okay. Yeah, so I think I just wanted to mention that, when we are talking about salary versus expectations, so I think still our industry is not yet that mature to offer the entry level packages that one would expect in more matured industries like maybe a consulting or finance or some of those other sectors. But having said that, if people are so that's where the caution, where what you were mentioning about passion, right? So
Yes.
if you are entering with passion, it's good. Okay. But if you only try to stay there because there is passion, I am saying you are going to be heavily taxed for that passion. And what I mean by that tax is growth is going to get limited as the years go by. So I think it is very important that if you are entering into this industry with passion, it's great. But having said that, try to wear those different hats as you move ahead. So maybe try to bring in, into your work the management concepts which probably you are learning. Like, I don't know how many of you, for example, have heard of Six Sigma or quality systems and so on and so forth. So unless we try to do that in whatever we do, whether it is a grassroots level program or we are running a branding marketing agency or whatever it is, I think that is going to really change the salary bracket for you as well, because that is what is going to create value for you in the market. And I'm
True.
telling you that people with these understanding and those kind of skills are difficult to find.
Yes.
And when they are found, they are paid really well, comparable to, I mean, I would still not say that they are being paid higher than, let's say, a typical strategic consulting or management consulting or a finance industry, but you will still be up there.
Sure. Yes. Yes, Abhishek.
No, no, absolutely. Look, since there are a lot of students here, I'll try and be a little more optimistic about this particular answer. Sports pays, especially in 2026 in India, given the kind of the way that the industry has grown. And I can speak on my own personal experience, having been in the sports broadcasting domain, having worked with pretty much India's three biggest broadcasters in the form of Disney Star, Sony, and Fancode. I have worked, so my colleagues have been management MBA graduates from ISB, some of the IMs. They actively recruit from these institutions. Of course, when you recruit from these institutions, it comes at a certain base pay. So this is, I think my point here is, and I think Mr. Fadnis was fantastic in the way that he said this, right? And I started today with passion helps you excel in this business. Core competencies, developing your skills, understanding what you're good at will help you climb the ladders in this industry. And I tell a lot of people, right? Why do an MBA? Why you need to study more? Maybe in India, unfortunately, the truth is it opens doors. It helps you get an opportunity. And I'll be as brash to also say that not everything you learn in an MBA, for example, is immediately applicable in a sports business. You will learn a lot on the go, but get that degree. Work hard, slog it out in those initial years. I thought I was this polished MBA grad, coming into the sports business 13, 14 years ago. One of the first jobs I had was getting your sleeves dirty. I was at a football ground at 4 in the morning, using my own hands to sort of fix the goalposts onto the ground. I have booked flights for a very big grassroots football program for kids flying in from the northeast of India, where my job was to verify the names so that we don't play a penalty to the airline when they reach the airport. And this is me who, before doing this, was selling soap for one of India's biggest FMCG giants. So passion is what will power you through. Passion gives you a vision. Passion keeps the fight going. But keep building your core competencies, and then everything will flow from there. Success will flow. Your wallets will get bigger. Your CTCs will grow. That's the way to look at it.
Very rightly put by all three of you. But so when we say Six Sigma, or when you speak about the necessity of a degree or having conceptual clarity, if I can ask both of you to kind of tell the audiences here that in your experience, which would be the top 5 knowledge bases or skill sets that one needs to develop in the early years of career, so that, as Abhishek said, the wallet will keep growing in weight, become fatter.
No, absolutely. And if Mr. Fadnis doesn't mind, I'm happy to take this first.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you. So, I think, again, I'll speak on my behalf and my experience. Understanding, I'll give you an example of sports marketing. At the end of the day, my core competency is I'm very passionate about cricket, very passionate about football, used to play all of that. I eat, sleep, breathe Manchester United. Most of all that is par for the course. But my core competency is marketing. My core competency is strategy. And what I mean by that is, I use a lot of what I've actually studied in marketing. At the end of the day, I am not trying to make more footballers in this country. That is not my immediate job. My immediate job is how do I get more people to, for example, start watching Formula One? How do I get more people to start watching more of La Liga on Fancode? So that requires an understanding of the consumer, patterns, behaviors, triggers, barriers. All of this comes from that degree. When you understand what is marketing at the end of the day. Similarly, even when you look at slightly more advanced and technical, so strategy is something that is very big in companies like FanCode. Sports what was mentioned by Mr. Siddharth Shankar before this. Understanding what is your blue ocean, because as FanCode in this business, our perceived competition is JioStar and Sony. But I'll tell you, as a FanCode marketer, they're not our competition because we are very clear about where our strategy is headed. We understand our blue ocean. Our blue ocean is, look, we don't want the 93% of IPL and India cricket rights. We are in the space of the remaining 7%. Therefore, understanding how to build businesses on the back of that 7%, how to be frugal, accounting and finance is very important. How to look at, your net margins, your bottom lines, understanding a balance sheet, understanding a P&L. These are basics that will help you, absolutely excel in your career. And that is what I meant by, do that degree. Get a basic fundamental understanding of what it takes to run a business. Everything else you learn on the job.
Right. Yes, right.
I think very well put by Abhishek, some of the points, but I just feel whether, you're looking at the target segment or whether we are trying to look at, operations of any large sports project, etc. I think the uh, very, very important skill in my view, which I think our students should look at, and which, I mean, I'll be very honest, when I started my career after my MBA and so on and so forth, I mean, I really didn't have in the initial years this understanding. So the financial literacy in terms of being able to understand the P&L and how the business works is as fast as you can, sort of develop that for yourself. I think it is going to help you in whichever field you are working, whether you are in marketer or whether you are a operations head or on the side of doing grassroots level sports or whatever. I think P&L is critical, which that understanding really helps. And along with that literacy, I would think that, as much as one can put in and acquire the skill on data literacy. So I don't want to get onto the AI bit. I mean, data literacy itself is good. So AI is a tool which of course now everybody uses, but these two I think would be very important skills.
On the top for you, absolutely. I mean, yes, completely. Data was something that earlier also was discussed in the panel, operations, and therefore understanding of brand marketing. And Abhishek very rightly structured the whole response. Now we spoke about the myth. We spoke about salary expectation, roles. One of the or one of the probably misconception or probably a strong perception that has built in the mind is that jobs are there only in Mumbai or Delhi or Pune or Bangalore. uh, from both your perspectives, with kind of initiatives that have been discussed now in the panel and the government initiatives that are coming up, where would you say that how these jobs are emerging beyond the metros, tier 2, tier 3? What is your perspective? Maybe Sudhanshu, if you can start.
So I think at least in the area that we work, whether be it schools or whatever, I think or the centers, etc., which we are expanding. I think there is a lot in the tier 2, tier 3 towns which is happening. And in fact, we are always facing that acute shortage of getting the right people to be placed and working in the tier 2, tier 3 towns. The reason for that is that in all of these towns, there is that premium which now people are ready to pay for a great experience. Whether it is the schools or people who want to go and do a pay and play or maybe take a coaching. Everywhere the premiumization, if I can call that, is really catching up in the tier 2, tier 3 towns. So I think there is a lot of activity. Having said that, of course, there is this whole thing of somebody might feel that metros pay you better, metro jobs, and as compared
Correct.
to tier 2, tier
Correct.
3. but again, it's about connected to what we were discussing in the previous this thing
Yeah.
also, that at an entry level, I think it gives a lot of benefit to be working in a tier two, tier three town, uh, because in a way the resource in that particular role is probably more on the job without really too much of I would say guidance or interference both ways. So they pick up the skills faster,
Yes.
and therefore, in my view, they are getting better ready in terms of at least in the industry that I am in, they
Mhm.
get better prepared for senior roles,
Coach.
having spent time in the tier two, tier three towns first.
Yes, absolutely. Abhishek, you want to
Yeah,
build on that?
not much to add there. I think Mr. Fadnis has summed it up. All I'll say is that, I am now working with these independent agencies that run content for me, where one, remote working is big. So if you're getting into marketing, especially not necessarily in a company or a huge sort of entity where you need to show up Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, a lot of these AOR-led roles are all remote. So one of the best agencies I work with are based out of Pondicherry, just to give you an
Mm.
example. Uh, but that's more on a business side. I think just to wrap up this particular piece, if it's operations and if it's league development, league management, and all of that, I think that is the real game is now in tier two, tier three. Given where government infrastructure spending is going, given where even private CSR infrastructure spending is going. My favorite story on this is India's biggest grassroots academies today are not in Bombay, Delhi, and Bangalore. They are in tier two, tier three towns because that's where the talent is. That is
Yes.
where the real sports people, sports persons of this country are, and that's where the jobs will also go now.
Good. Yeah, that awareness is something absolutely well put by you. That awareness, that and a willingness to travel. A
Hmm.
lot of times there is, you're fine, you've come here in the city, you've got yourself educated, but your willingness to travel in tier two, tier three, grow your career, and as
Yeah.
Sudhanshu put it very rightly, that in fact, if you're able to contribute in tier two, tier three better, your understanding of the concepts, your ability to fight the challenges in tier two is so, you're so well honed that when you are given a bigger stage, life can be much better for you at that point in time.
Abhijit, if I may just add one point to that, since you touched upon this, it's a subject that's very close to my heart.
Hmm.
Some of India's best marketers are typically, one would say, from the vintage FMCG companies of Unilever and P&G and ITC and Godrej and all of that. I Why is that so? It's because, and I've had the good fortune of working at Godrej, and I did a management trainee stint where they made me, do salesman stints in tier three towns and villages. And, you know, here's my takeaway from that, right? You understand India. You understand, we're all so walled and protected in these big metros and high rises and these lovely schools and, these societies that we all belong to. You understand India when you get out into villages, tier two and tier three. It is a completely different world. The way they think, the way they consume, the way they are as people. And once you get that understanding, only then can you then apply that understanding to your business or to your role in your day-to-day life. And that is why I think tier two, tier three, everyone out here, I would mandate it almost, Abhijit and Jitu, like send them to grassroots villages where development is happening. Tell them to go put that line marking of a kabaddi court in Rourkela. Tell them to go stand next to a goalkeeper who has traveled 45 kilometers in the morning with his grandfather to come and play that match. I think that is where the real learning is.
Yes, in fact, we have something that is part of our curriculum, and I think the next segment is where 5 minutes me and Jitu speak about how exactly what you said, how we will make sure that you draw that line on the kabaddi, whether it's the kabaddi mat or kabaddi,
Mitti,
mitti wala pitch. So one question that I've been asking uh, the earlier panel also, and I'm going to ask to both of you, that while we're talking about tier two, tier three growth, most of the roles in the industry are of gig orientation or are freelance oriented, or some light has also been thrown on entrepreneurial opportunities. So here, in your understanding, so there are jobs where lot of us, and nothing right or wrong about it, but a lot of us who come from the middle class, where parents invest in education, and then suddenly the term called ROI in education comes, where इतना पैसा डाला तो इतना तो मिलना चाहिए 2 साल में, 3 साल में, 4 साल में. But sports perhaps is not directly of that nature. So in your view, jobs versus freelancing opportunities and gigs versus entrepreneurial opportunities. Sudhanshu, uh, your perspective.
So, so I think I would think that gigs and small time jobs etc. is the reality of sports sector, and I don't think it is going away soon. It might actually proliferate into many smaller roles in future. But having said that, I think when we talk about a job or a career, I think it is very important for students as well as their parents to understand that this is all dependent on how you define success in the job or career that you're talking about. So if your criteria for success is, I mean, I'm just saying that, one of the criteria, because a lot of youngsters come in with the idea of meeting a lot of celebrity sports persons. Suppose if that's your criteria, and if for that I'm doing different gigs and trying to get to achieve that criteria, so be it. I mean, that's my return on investment. Yeah. Similarly, if somebody wants or is looking at stability, right? So then I think you will need to put in or add some of those skills rather than doing some of these freelance gigs, for particularly for when you talk about gigs, Abhijit, I would understand that you are talking about these gigs which typically youngsters are doing with event kind of industry, right? Events kind of industry. So if students want to move away from it and create more stability for themselves as a return on investment, then I would think that apart from the sports management course which you are all exposed to, I think it is time that you have that MBA plus plus kind of skill set with you. And it could be some of the other things that I mentioned, maybe business development skills or financial literacy, data literacy. Some of those will add and create that stability for you. So that's my suggestion. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Abhishek.
Yeah, I think from what I have seen over the last decade plus in this industry, and it's a bit of a conventional view, but it's changing slowly. What I have seen is that gigs lead to jobs and jobs lead to entrepreneurship. This is what I have seen in my career. I have seen, I'll start with my time at Sports Consult, which was, my first opportunity at doing something in sports, thanks to
True.
you. We would work with so many freelancers when we tried to organize a league, and that would typically be gig based. And then what happens is then as the company grew, we needed to hire full timers. So who would we look at? We look at those guys doing the gigs to say, let me give an example, marketing. We typically freelance the marketing to someone who would be doing a gig for a particular tournament. Now the company is grown. I need to build a marketing team. I would first look at that same guy who was doing the gig, and now the guy doing the gig has got a job at a company. And then I'll talk to you more about how I have seen so many senior leaders leave this organization, it could be any of these big media companies, to go and start something of their own, which is entrepreneurship. What I will say, though, is to a lot of young students here, look, entrepreneurship is not easy. And I think if you have a brilliant idea and if you are brilliant, go for it. No one's going to stop you. But I fundamentally believe that when you work jobs and when you do gigs, it only adds to your knowledge. It gives you experience. And if you have that idea, but you're not sure about, should I get into it? Should I put money into it? If you're not sure and convinced and you don't have 100% conviction, do the job, do the gig, enrich in your experience. Then you will find that, oh, okay, you know what? This idea that I had cooking in my head for an entrepreneurship or for a business, it'll start cooking passively. And then one day you will realize, yes, I can get into this and build a career out of it.
Absolutely. And thank you for your input, Abhishek. Basically, I wanted to cover this entire spectrum for all the audience that who have been patiently listening for the past, 2 to 3 hours, and that pretty much sums up from a career perspective. I think what we dealt with is, if there are any myths around and what could be the myths, and if you want to join the sports industry, then it is not for the glamour. It is not for probably that you are spending some time with some celebrity, and you will have to build, serious knowledge. You'll have to build serious skills. You'll have to work hard, you will have to put that effort, you will have to shed your attitude, you will have to be willing to uh, put that extra number of hours and travel to tier 1, 2, 3 city, get exposed, and then climb the ladder, probably from the gigs to more freelancing opportunities in terms of projects, which Sudhanshu mentioned, that could come up from the MBA plus skills. But that can also come, you don't, whether you do an MBA or whether you don't do an MBA, that mid tier is going to come only when you are exposed to the earlier aspects of managing projects. And then of course you can move to the strategic aspects of jobs, maybe in a full-time role, or probably have your own company. That's the spectrum that we wanted to cover. And both of you, and of course Nitin bhai, covered it very well. I think there are a couple of questions, but one gentleman or lady, I don't know, who identifies um, herself or himself as anonymous attendee. So we'll keep that anonymous since you want to be anonymous. Long statement. Hi, sir. I would prefer not to name specific companies, but I have observed instances in the sports industry where employees are laid off within a month or even on very short notice. Given how competitive the industry already is, securing a new opportunity in such a limited time frame can be extremely challenging. In your opinion, uh, what measures, policies, or industry standards should organizations implement to ensure better job security and a more sustainable work environment for professionals in the sports industry? I mean, maybe both of you want to comment on something. I have a perspective, but I'll let you first, both of you.
I'm sorry, whoever's asked this question, I'm going to try and give a very real answer. Mate, it's business here at the end of the day. It's business. There's no one doing charity. The world we live in is so dynamic. It's evolving by the year. Look at what AI has done to so many industries. Forget about sports for a second. What is the next AI? Now, we've taken 30 years to go from internet to AI. Trust me when I tell you, the next AI to what is not going to take 30 years, and that could disrupt even further. So I don't think, look, as long as you have a good work environment, you're being fairly compensated for your services, you have, it's a boon and a blessing if you've got great infrastructure, great office, great canteen. I don't think the company owes it to you to necessarily say, look, I will make sure you will never get laid off. That's a hard truth of the world we live in. And it's the hard truth of running a business, which is everything is so dynamic in a good way and in a bad way.
Sudhanshu?
Yeah, so I agree with what Abhishek is mentioning. I think it's just about you know making sure that if at all, see, because laying off or companies' decisions, etc., on a larger scale with respect to market, etc., will never be in one's control. What is in one's control is what you have been able to build in the time spent during your stint with the company. What skills have you been able to build up for yourself? And that will create your acceptance or I would say uptake in the industry that much faster. If at all this kind of scenario one is faced with, right? So I think the focus should be on what one can control. So while you are doing your either your gigs, freelancing, or a full-time job, etc., I think make sure that you utilize that period on the side also to build other skills. And when I say other skills, I don't mean only just looking at doing online courses and taking certifications. I mean,
Absolutely.
try to build some real skills which you can demonstrate in the market, whether a layoff is around the corner or whether a new opportunity comes your way, whichever ways.
Absolutely, absolutely. Anybody who is equipped with skills, layoff or no layoff, at some point in time is going to get engaged and will get his or her due. It's evident. And I think the gentleman or the lady who asked the question, getting laid off within a month, uh, generally doesn't happen, but that's probably very very unfortunate that you got to experience that, because people, generally organizations know how long they can sustain a human resource. But however, like Sudhanshu and Abhishek mentioned, it's important that you are equipped at all point in time. So with that, okay, there's one more question. Okay, it's an extension of the same thing, but if you're talking about policies and standards, unfortunately sports is not an industry. Sports infrastructure is an industry. There are HR policies that organizations can follow. There are governance policies that organizations adopt. uh, all organizations are private organizations mostly, as you know, right from the morning. It is the private sector that is pushing a lot of developments that are happening in the sporting, and then the government is also responding well to that. I think this will take some time to evolve. So from Vinay Kumar, there's a question for both of you. uh, yes, Vinay, can you please ask?
While Vinay types his question, I just want to tell the person asking
He
this
says,
question.
I have one question, Vinay Kumar.
Okay, here's the
As
question.
I have a question. As I recently looked at it from England, since I'm back, can I speak? Yes, yes, you can speak. Put on your audio. Please speak. Vinay, if you can hear me, please ahead. Please speak. Okay, type. If you can't find the audio, you can type your question. No problem. You can quickly type your question. We'll answer.
Yeah, hi everyone. Sorry.
Okay, okay, okay. Yes,
Can
Vinay.
am I audible to everyone now?
Yes, Vinay.
Yes.
Yeah, hi. Hi, my name is Vinay Kumar. I recently relocated after playing almost 3 seasons in Surrey County Cricket League. And after coming back, I have, always thought about it. I want to you know, start my cricket classes with the young kids where I can focus on their grassroots level of cricket, where what I have seen in England and when I compare when what generally I see in India, uh, the coaches, they are amazing coaches we have in India, and now we got amazing facilities also. What I have seen, like the coaches, like I thought like maybe I try to find out a good job as a coach. I have certification and everything. I got ICC certification. I got some other certification in sports, and having almost four season experience of Surrey County and winning the Surrey County at Kia Oval, which is which I thought like winning that thing will give me a big leverage. But eventually, what happened when I start looking for the job? Uh, the people are the academies or the big names academies also, they are not willing to pay more than 20 to 25,000 rupees, and I was really like shocked, like, oh my God, I mean, where are we exactly? Where in England, I mean, I should not compare the salary criteria what we have in England, but even the cricket coach can make almost like 25 to 26,000 pounds in a year, which is also not a full-time job. That is also a job which is he will be working 4 day or 3 days. So where we are actually, I'm trying to find out and trying to understand where do we stand in terms of how we will uh, have those coaches. They have talent, they have certification, they have everything, but it's still they cannot even earn that small amount which at least needed in a even in a second tier city. At least what I see in India, we
Understood.
need at least minimum to minimum 50 to
Understood.
60,000 rupees.
Understood. I think the best person to answer this question in this panel would be Sudhanshu. Sudhanshu, would you like to respond to Mr. Vinay Kumar?
I think my answer to this is I think there is no question of help. I think we should avoid using that word. Nobody, I mean, like Abhishek pointed out earlier, it's a market, and in the market decides what is going to happen to a particular position, what is going to happen to a particular role in an industry, and that's what is happening. So while you may have had an experience of somebody offering a very low pay, etc., we do a lot of recruitments, and there are also examples where very good coaches with the right kind of skills, etc., are making 1 lakh rupees or more as well. So I think it's I would think that you will probably need to look at the right kind of opportunity. And finally, if for example, I mean, if you're looking at a coaching role, then what is the legacy or pedigree of that company, what they have been doing, will actually determine. If you go to a single coach academy, I think this is what you will get. But if you go to a more organized, structured organizations which are running coaching centers or training centers, I mean, you can definitely expect better better compensation. That's my take on this.
Yeah, I understand. I tried couple of which are structure, which are well known, to be honest. And but it's not about the negotiation. It's about deciding like we don't have more than this. Our budget is this. They are very fixed, and they are not asking you to just spend like 4 hours or 5 hours, XYZ numbers of hours. They are expecting you, to run their academy throughout the weeks, at the same time the matches, extra matches, so they are asking you, your entire time. Okay, so this is where I was surprised. Okay, we have to have a respect for the coaches also, which I feel like, coaches put a lot of effort. Even I have to maintain my physical fitness and everything. I need, it's a minimum nutrition, which as a coach I have to be very fit for the kids to teach.
Yeah, point well taken, Vinay. But I think I think that's where we are. I mean, it's not going to. So I'll compare. So because we are also in the space of sports education. So let's look at, for example, teachers, right, in schools. What happens, and I'm just giving, this is not to sort of take away the credit of your experience as a coach, etc. It's I'm just giving you a set example of that in an institution like a school. When a sports person goes and looks for a physical education teacher or sports teacher role, invariably their pay scales are lower than, let's say, a maths teacher. Okay.
Hmm.
And also in terms of the importance which the institution is giving to the sports coach is also lesser. So now that's something which is not, in my view, the making of one particular company or one particular this thing. I think it is the mindset issue of us as a society. Unless
Exactly.
we understand the importance of sports education as equivalent to education at large, that is not going to happen. and
Yeah.
and and that also translate to the thinking that the parents have when they send their kids for coaching classes, right? Whether it is
Mhm.
cricket or badminton or whatever, they are not willing to pay as much as they would like to pay for a, let's say, a tier 1 school like a Delhi public school or whatever. That fee they will be able to pay. But when they send for a badminton coaching, and let's say the kid is a beginner kind of a big kid, they will probably spend maybe 3,000, 5,000, whatever, but beyond that they will not. So if they are not willing to pay, I mean, how would, for example, the center pay an X amount or a minimum amount which you are mentioning to a coach? So
Yeah.
those are some of the challenges. But I think as an industry, we are all trying to, you know, take those
Evolve.
challenges, do strong advocacy around it, so that we transform into a sports nation, which we still are not. I mean, we've
Yeah.
become much
Yeah.
better than 20 years back, but we are still not there.
I agree. We are progressing in that way, and where my point is the welfare of the coaches, which I see. We if we have strong coaches, if we have good infrastructure, and with the strong coaches, though we have good infrastructure, like strong infrastructure, and we don't have the coaches to discuss or talk with the kids. I mean, how will we be able to produce the good players?
I think true. I mean, true. This discussion on coaching and sport development is obviously all of us are extremely passionate about it. And as Sudhanshu very rightly pointed out, the market decides. The market is evolving. The whole ecosystem is evolving. Unfortunately, you came from England, where perhaps the ecosystem has evolved more than India in certain sports. So that comparison and that experience is going to kind of pinch you a little bit by the time you have a stronger footing here. I'll just move on to the next question. Raman asked, "How do you see sports mental training to be a part of grassroots level as sports psychologists or mental trainer? What are your thoughts on that, Abhishek or Sudhanshu? Anybody who would like to?
Look, I think there's opportunity around the entire spectrum of professions within the sports business. I think Sudhanshu was very right when he said that as the ecosystem grows, everything grows with it. So maybe there was not a need for professionalized sports mental training maybe in this country 20 years ago, but that's largely down to the science, us not being aware as athletes and organizations about the merit of something like that. But that said, now that the ecosystem has gotten bigger, and linking this to Vinay's point in the previous question, not only sports mental health training, I worked in Kabaddi. I helped grow the Pro Kabaddi League in India to what it is today. I can tell you the way Kabaddi, our own Khel, has transformed not only in front of the camera and what you see on the television, but even behind the scenes. Would you believe it if I told you some of these Kabaddi athletes today, 5 years ago, did not even have a cycle. Today they have a Range Rover. Um,
True.
some of these franchises that operate in the Pro Kabaddi League, they recruit strength training coaches from Poland for a 3-month window to come and teach or to come and train their athletes. So the ecosystem is evolving, it's
Evolving.
building. So I think there's enough
True.
potential for all
True.
these professions to grow.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think that's pretty much the questions that have been asked. So Sudhanshu, Abhishek, once again, thank you for your patience, thank you for your time and the perspectives that you were able to present. And of course, there is your friend, our partner.
Thank you, Sudhanshu. Thank you, Abhishek.
Thank you for having us
I'm
here. I think it was wonderful interacting with you. I hope we could
I'm
share
sure the students.
good thoughts
Yeah.
with the students. So
I just wanted to leave Jeetu and everyone with this. And I was telling Jeetu this offline. I've done a few things in the last 15 years in the sports business that I'm very proud of. But being invited to be on this panel today has been the single biggest moment of my sports journey. So thank you, Jeetu. Thank you, Abhijit. Thank you, Mr. Fadnis. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Great session. Thank you very much. You both were amazing. I think it will help our students and whoever attended today. They will gain a lot. Very, very, very insightful. Thank you very much.